Have you ever wondered why some companies just seem to make this incredible leap from being, well, pretty good to being truly great, while others just kind of get stuck? That is the billion-dollar question that author Jim Collins set out to answer in his landmark book, Good to Great. And today, we're going to unpack the timeless secrets he discovered.
Okay, so the entire book, and I mean the whole thing, really boils down to this one powerful idea. What Collins argues is that for most companies, being good isn't a stepping stone to greatness. It's actually a dead end. See, it's easy to get comfortable when things are good enough. And that comfort, turns out, it's the biggest trap of all. So this was the big question that kicked off a massive, and I mean massive, 5-year research project. The team literally waded through decades of data on Fortune 500 companies, looking for that tiny handful that made a measurable, lasting leap from just average results to absolutely spectacular ones. They were determined to crack the code.
And the results of that leap? I mean, what happened when they made the switch? Well, it was just staggering. On average, the 11 companies that made the cut absolutely crushed the stock market. They outperformed it by 6.9 times over the 15 years after their big change. To put that in perspective, they weren't just doing well, they were blowing past giants like GE, Coca-Cola, and Intel. So the question is, how in the world did they pull it off? What they found was this really clear, powerful framework, a kind of journey. It starts with disciplined people, then moves to disciplined thought, and wraps up with disciplined action. We're going to break down the 5 core ideas that make this whole transformation possible. You know, the real genius of this study wasn't just in looking at the winners. That's the easy part, right? It was how they compared them. For every single one of those 11 good to great companies, they found a direct competitor in the same industry with the same opportunities that just didn't make the leap. By doing this, they could filter out all the noise and pinpoint the exact things that actually made the difference. All right, so what's the first thing they found? The first big piece of the puzzle. You might think it's technology or some brilliant new strategy, but nope, it was the people. And it all started right at the very top, with the kind of leader that, honestly, nobody expected. This one idea just completely shattered the whole celebrity CEO myth we're so used to. The study found that the leaders behind these huge transformations weren't the flashy, charismatic types you see on magazine covers. They were often quiet, self-effacing, even a little bit shy. But don't let that fool you. Underneath that quiet exterior was this just ferocious, almost fanatical will to win.
And this is just the perfect illustration of the difference. You had Darwin Smith at Kimberly-Clark, a man who transformed the company into the world's leader in its category, all while being so modest he said he never stopped trying to become qualified for his own job. His ambition was for the company. And then you have Al Dunlap at a rival company, a guy who called himself Rambo in pinstripes and pocketed $100 million for himself before selling the company off. You see the difference? For Smith, it was all about the company. For Dunlap, it was all about, well, Dunlap.
So when you boil it all down, it was never about personal glory. These leaders channeled their egos into building a great company, not into making themselves famous. They were the plow horses doing the hard work, not the show horses prancing around for applause. And they made sure the company would be even more successful long after they were gone. Okay, so that's the leader. But the second part of having disciplined people is maybe even more surprising. You know, we're always taught that great leaders start with a vision, right? A strategy. Well, the good to great leaders, they did the exact opposite. They started with the people. And this right here is such a huge clarification. Think about that for a second. It's not just about hiring people. The leaders of these great companies had this relentless, almost obsessive focus on getting the right people on their team before they even knew exactly where they were going. Collins captures this with his famous bus analogy. First, you focus on getting the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. Then you figure out where to put everyone in the right seats, and only then do you figure out where to drive the bus. And the logic behind it is so simple, but it's also incredibly profound. If you have the right people with you, you can adapt to anything the world throws at you. All right, so you've got your all-star team on the bus. Now, where do you drive it? This brings us to the next big phase, disciplined thought. But, and this is key, it's not about creating some monster 100-page strategy document. It's about finding a deep, powerful simplicity. To explain this, Collins uses this fantastic old parable about a fox and a hedgehog. The fox is cunning. He knows a little bit about everything and is always chasing a dozen different things. The hedgehog, on the other hand, isn't so flashy. He knows how to do one big thing perfectly: defend himself. The comparison companies were like foxes, scattered, complex, and chasing everything. The great ones, they became hedgehogs. They found their one big thing and focused on it with incredible consistency. So that one big thing the hedgehog knows? That's what Collins calls the Hedgehog Concept. And it's not some goal you just pull out of thin air. It's a deep, crystal clear understanding that you get by being brutally honest with yourself about your organization. So how do you find it? Well, you have to answer 3 really important questions. Number 1, what can we be the absolute best in the world at? And just as important, what can we not be the best at? 2, what is the single number that most drives our economic engine? For Walgreens, for example, it was profit per customer visit. Simple and clear. And 3, what are we deeply passionate about? The real magic, the Hedgehog Concept, is found right in the sweet spot where those 3 circles overlap. And this is a really, really important distinction. It's not about ambition or bravado. Any company can set a goal to be the best. This is different. This is about having the humility and the honesty to discover the one thing you truly can be the best in the world at. It's a huge difference. Okay, so you have the right people. You've found your Hedgehog Concept. Now for the final piece of the puzzle: disciplined action. This is where it all comes together. This is how you actually generate those mind-blowing results. And here's what's so fascinating. When they looked back, there was no aha moment, no single big decision or killer app that changed everything. Instead, they described the process like pushing a giant, heavy flywheel. That first push, it barely moves. It takes a huge effort. But you keep pushing, consistently, in the same direction, turn after turn. And the flywheel starts building momentum. Slowly at first, but then faster and faster until you hit this point of breakthrough where the momentum itself is doing the work. It's the complete opposite of what they saw in the other companies, which were stuck in what Collins calls the doom loop. It's this chaotic cycle of lurching from one new idea to the next, always looking for a miracle, but never building any real momentum. And the incredible thing about the flywheel is that its momentum creates its own energy. It's contagious. People see real, tangible results, and it gets them excited, energized. All those chronic problems of getting everyone aligned and motivated, they just start to melt away because everyone can see the wheel turning and they all want to push to make it go faster. So let's zoom out and look at the whole framework. You see how it all fits together, right? It's this beautiful, logical journey. It all starts with disciplined people, getting the right leaders and the right team on the bus. That allows you to have disciplined thought, to be honest enough to find your Hedgehog Concept. And that finally enables disciplined action, the relentless pushing on the flywheel, turn after turn, to build unstoppable momentum. And for me, this is maybe the most powerful message in the whole book. The good to great companies weren't just lucky. They weren't in sexy industries. They were in boring industries like paper and drugstores. Their greatness wasn't a matter of circumstance. It was a matter of conscious choice, followed by immense discipline. So that leaves us with one final big question to think about. For you, if you were to apply that hedgehog thinking to your own work, or maybe even to your own life, what's that one thing where your passion, what you can be the best at, and what drives you all intersect? Finding that answer, well, that might just be the very first push on your own personal flywheel.